All right, students, welcome back one more time to another Star Tutors live lesson. If you haven't been with us before, I am Chase. I will be your teacher guiding you through the lesson today. I hope you guys are all doing well and hanging in there as we approach the end of the calendar year. If you're watching the live stream today, please give me a thumbs up or a hello in the chat so that I know that you're here. For anybody that doesn't get a chance to watch the live lesson, you can always watch the recording, which is always posted immediately after this. But again, I'm Chase with Star Tutors, and welcome back if you've been with us before. And if you don't want to participate in the chat, you don't want to comment with a hello or a thumbs up, just give me a thumbs up below the video to let us know that you're here. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you like, especially if you like what you see today. But make sure that you subscribe to the channel and help us spread the word. This is something that we want. These videos are something that we want to continue to do, and we can continue to do. But we need as many viewers as possible, so that's where you guys can really help us out by helping us spread the word. Okay, today what we're going to be going through is the writing and language test. We're going to be doing just one passage, so I'm going to try to keep this video relatively short. We're just going to be doing one passage, and it's going to be focused on question identification. Okay, especially for the writing and language section, because we've discussed reading at length. Memo, great. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys, if you guys are finding these videos to be helpful, that's a thrill for me, of course. It makes me want to do more of these because, again, I want to help as much as I can. So, again, if anybody's out there and wanting to help, please just help us spread the word. More subscriptions to the channel, more views on the channel obviously allow us to do more of these. But Memo, in the meantime, I'm very glad that this is all helping. Again, today we're going to be talking about identification. Okay, and when we talk about identification on the writing and language test, this is the writing and language section can be, it might not be today, but it can be the easiest section for all of you. But by nature, it is the easiest section on the SAT, and there's really no question in that. The same thing is true of the ACT English section. By the nature of the questions, in terms of how you're approaching these, this is the easiest section. There's fewer concepts than there are to learn on the math sections. And it's much more concept based in the reading section, where I've always said it, but the reading section on the SAT tends to be the hardest section because there isn't a lot of there's not a ton you can do besides just reading more literature outside of the reading test. That is not the case for writing and language. Okay, the first thing that I would say for anybody that's looking to increase their score, and this should be true of everybody. The first thing that all of you should do, regardless of how strong you are in math or in reading or writing and language, the first thing that you should all do is focus as much attention as possible on getting 400 out of 400. For anybody that's looking to get, let's say, a score above 1350, right? If your goal score is above 1350, then this is the section that you need to start with. Now, some of you luck out in the sense that I know a lot of you guys are great that watch these videos, or there's a lot of great math students. That's great. But if you are looking for a place to start and you're not really sure, even if you're a great math student, and maybe it kind of depends. If you're a really, really strong math student, then it might be good to try to narrow that down, right? Let's say you're getting a 700 on math. Maybe you should start there because that's similarly concept-based to the writing and language. But if you're one of those students out there that's not sure where to start with this section, because as you're going to see today, you can memorize every single question type that may show up on the test. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Bayram, that's awesome. Bayram, that's awesome. Again, guys, every time you guys make comments that these are helping you, these videos are helping you, it only makes me and our team want to make more of these. The final thing that I want to say before we get started with this is that if you haven't downloaded Star U, that's our tutoring app. It's available for free on the App Store and on Google Play. If you haven't downloaded Star U yet, please make sure that you do so, because we're going to cross-reference this. When I talk about question identifications, if you have your Star U student account and you open up lessons and practice problems on the home screen and then click SAT Writing and Language, a lot of the question types that we're going to identify today can be found right here under the self-study tool. So if you go here and you can correctly identify an apostrophes and confused words section, right? If we can identify that on the real test, but we missed that question, then we can just go right here and learn more about those things. So much, guys, so much of this test, about the writing and language section, not the entire SAT, but writing and language in particular, so much of this can be found directly right here on the app. So if you're a hard worker, if you have great work ethic, and you work to identify each and every question per passage on the writing and language section, it can all be learned right here. Okay? Armand, yeah, if you watch, so we have a lot of videos. Last thing that I'll say, Armand, check out this video. Continue to watch before we get started here. But if you guys ever have any questions, there's a million videos posted in these video descriptions that we have, including the full playlist of this is the October 2021 SAT test that I'm about to walk you through. Passage number 1. So this is from the October 2021 SAT. At the time of this filming, it's the most recent test. The time of the live stream, for anybody that's watching the recording, October 2021 SAT. And we're going to go do writing and language passage number 1. Writing and language passage number 1. And that's the one that I'm going to walk you through with this idea of trying to establish the identification of these question types. Okay? Hey, Ram, that's awesome. Guys, love the comments. Okay, so Gurav, everything, you just got to keep working. The writing and language section, to give anybody a sense of this writing and language section, you just need to keep practicing. The faster you can identify questions, or the better you can identify questions, the better you're going to do. Okay, guys, if you're ever interested in looking at a book, again, download Star U if you haven't already. You guys can see that. I posted the link at the top of this. Download Star U or create a student account, and you can walk through all the stuff that we're talking about here today. So let's get started with this. This is the USA version, guys, and if you are looking to follow along with this or follow along with our playlist, you can click the link, the top link in the video description below. You can click that link and you can download this test to follow along. Okay? So let's look at this, guys. So the first question, right? We need to be able to identify every single question, and this is one that you will find on the SAT test. This is a difficult question to start out with. But my ability, and you guys can watch me take this test for the first time that I saw it ever, and everybody asks us about these. Once you get to the questions, it's not whether or not I'm going to know. I just will know it because nothing changes about the writing and language section. As an example, this is what we call a redundancy question. Redundancy. And the difficulty, right, it's called a redundancy. The difficulty in these questions, when you see a redundancy question, is that we never correct these in our own language. For example, if I say every Wednesday on a weekly basis, can everybody give me a thumbs up or a thumbs up below the video if you recognize that if your friend said that to you, why this question is hard and why it's always deemed to be hard? It's tough that the SAT is giving this as question number 1 on this section, but we never correct each other. If you were to say that to your friend every Wednesday on a weekly basis, nobody would ever think otherwise. And so you cannot trust your ear here. Okay, every Wednesday on a weekly basis. Well, guys, I know that it seems logical enough to say this, but how often does Wednesday come up? Okay, how often does Wednesday come up? That's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. And I know that seems very straightforward, like, well, obviously Wednesday is once per week, but that's what the SAT is trying to get you to do, right? They're trying to get you to think about that. So let me just pull up one other thing here. Does that make sense? So as we look at this first question, every Wednesday is all that we need to say. It's already implied. There's one Wednesday a week, right? You don't need to say every Wednesday on a weekly basis. That's already implied. And yes, that is a difficult question because it is something in when we speak that we would really probably never think about when we're talking with our friends. Yet they're going to test you on this, so that's where you cannot trust your ear. And again, a redundancy question is found as a lesson chapter. It's called Concisions and Redundancies under Star U. Okay? Let's look at the next one. And Keith, yeah, if you guys are looking to improve, don't just keep taking practice tests. Take an untimed writing and language section and see if you can identify every question as I am doing right now. That's how you should approach this. For anybody out there that's struggling and keeps missing the same amount on practice tests, don't take any more practice tests until you've done the approach that we're doing together today. Right? This next one, which choice most effectively combines the underlined sentences? Again, this is another lesson chapter. If you want even more in-depth and more practice problems surrounding this, you can find it in Star U. Okay, this is a direct lesson chapter. All of this content is written by our current tutors. So the things that I say in these videos are things that we are putting into this book and putting into the app as well. Whenever you think about it, most effectively combines the underlined portions, think simply. Okay, think simply. The simplest answer is often correct. The one that doesn't use as much punctuation, the one that has the subject and the verb typically at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, of the attendees at these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings, some of them were among the 20th century's. Some of them is not great. It might be, right, but I don't think that's going to be the right answer. I'm going to eliminate A because some of them sound so inconsistent with proper tone. These intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings had attendees, and among them sounds better, and among them were some of the 20th century's greatest composers. So this one has a compound sentence. I don't think it's as grammatically incorrect as A, but I don't love it still in terms of thinking simply. Some of the 20th century's greatest composers attended because these were intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings. No, it's not that one. You don't need these were again, right? Among the attendees to these intellectually weekly gatherings were some of the So guys, right here, among the attendees to these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings were some. Does everybody see how answer choice D is the simplest? We don't have punctuation like we do in B, right? We don't use the word some of, right? Some of is not a very proper tone. Among the attendees to these intellectually rigorous weekly gatherings were some of the 20th century's greatest composers, right? This is among these intellectually rigorous, that among the attendees, that's the subject, and were is the verb, and then we keep going with the rest of the sentence. Okay, so again, when you see those combining like sentences, think simply. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Think simply. Okay, this is another one. The reason that we're doing this in identification to everybody, right? For everybody that's watching, the reason we're doing these identifiers is because when you know this identification so well, you know exactly what to do for every question. As an example, right, you're not worried about anything. And that's why when you see us go through these real-time videos where I take the test in real time, the reason I'm so calm is because I know it doesn't matter which test you give, they're all going to have questions that deal with the main idea. They're all going to have redundancies. We've seen so many tests over the last 5 years that nothing changes. So again, if you can identify which choice best sets up the main idea of the next paragraph, well, geez, if I need to know if I need to know something in the main idea of the next paragraph, the only way that I can answer question number 3 is to read a significant portion of the next paragraph. Otherwise, there's no way to answer that question correctly. So before we do anything else, I'm going to read even though it might take some time, I'm going to read that because I know this is a main idea. This is a main idea question, and a main idea question, if you look in Star U, tells you that you need to make sure that you understand the main idea in order to answer it. Central to Boulangner's teaching was insistent this was massive fundamentals of classical music, which meant gaining a proficiency in musical theory. These various driller students. So this seems to be talking about how the teacher does this during private. Yeah, it's the teacher and the beliefs, right? So let's see. Was famous for a demanding curriculum that stressed not only the obligations composers have to their audience. I don't think it has anything to do with the audience. Does everybody see that? Does everybody see how this one doesn't have really anything to do with the audience, right? It's not about the audience in the next paragraph. It's about how she teaches her students. Advantages of dramatic formats like opera. This is never mentioned. Importance of musical form. Maybe. Value of learning to play several instruments. It's clearly one of these last ones. Musical form is not how I would describe that, but maybe the musical form means like the curriculum, right? The structure of how to improve. So maybe that's what that means. Let's see if they talk about it during purposes. I think it's got to be C here for number 3. We took this test a few weeks ago. I think that the first time I saw it, I think it's got to be, I think musical form. I think I was confused about that the first time too, just the word musical form, right? Not necessarily talking about how it interacts with students. Right here, next one, number 4, right? That was a main idea question. Number 4 is a verb tense / let's call it a verbs question, right? And if we practiced, we know that can only fall under 2 categories. It's either a verb tense question or it's a subject-verb agreement question, right? Or a combination of those two. But that's the only time you'll see verbs underlined on this test. Okay, so during private lessons and weekly gatherings, Boulanger, right, that's the subject, so that has to be singular. Anything that's plural needs to be eliminated if there is anything, right? It doesn't look like there is, so this looks like it's not a subject-verb agreement because all of these seem to be singular or some tense, so it looks like it's a tense question. She used various drills. Boulanger would lead, right? Would lead, this is not ongoing, I don't think. So I think it's would lead because it's used, which is past tense. It's not A because that's present. It's not C because that's future. Has been leading could be right, but I don't think this is still ongoing, right? When you say has been leading, it means that you started in the past, but it's still going on today. It doesn't seem like that's the right answer, so I think it's just would lead, which is just kind of some form of the traditional past tense. All right. Number 5, coincidentally, guys, number 5 is one of those apostrophes and confused words, which at the beginning of this video, I identified as one of the chapters within Star U. This is apostrophes and confused words. Okay? So we see that in every one of these answer choices. That's how you can identify this question. Does everybody see thumbs up if you see that there's various uses of an apostrophe in every question? Thumbs up if you see that. Various uses of apostrophes in every question. Number 5, we can come back and answer these, but I just want to identify, right, if we're seeing apostrophes, we got to know how apostrophes work, and you can find that again in Star U. Number 6, we see various forms of punctuation. Punctuation is the most common grammar rule on the test, so if you're going to start somewhere, start with this one. Punctuation lesson chapter, kind of subsets of that within Star U are fragments, if you want to look at fragments, as well as run-ons. Those are both also lesson chapters, but check those out in Star U. Okay, again, that's punctuation. We're identifying that because we see different forms of punctuation in the answer choices. You'll notice that on the vast majority of these questions, I'm going and looking at the answer choices to tell me what I'm supposed to do. I'm not immediately going to the passage. I'm not freaking out about where I am in my time. I'm looking at these questions knowing, okay, well, there's punctuation question. What are my punctuation rules? That's what I'm thinking about in my head. Right? Oh, this is clearly apostrophes and confused words. We have certain words that have no apostrophes. We have others that have singular apostrophes, others with plural apostrophes. I got to know my rules, and those can all be learned, which is going back to my statement at the beginning of this video, the idea that this is the easiest section to do the best on, the fastest, is because you can identify all of these, and there's really not that many grammar rules that you really have to memorize. Okay? To make this paragraph most logical, sentence 1. So this is an organization question, and if I know my identifiers well, right? If I know I can identify this, I'll know that organization questions are going to take longer. So I either have to sit there and say, how far behind time am I right now? And generally, I'm not too far. And I have to sit there and be like, okay, I need to make sure I take my time, not rushing this question, because generally organization questions are not very difficult. They are time consuming, but they're not very difficult. So you have to weigh those two pros and cons. That's something that you have to continue to do as you work through this. Okay, number 8, which choice best sets up the information that follows in the sentence, right? Similar to the one that says, was talking about the next paragraph. This is just a main, let's call it main purpose or main idea question. Because in this case, unlike the previous question that we've already answered, this one is about the next sentence. The one that we previously answered, number 2 or 3, whatever the number that was about the next paragraph. Okay? So again, that's another main idea question that we need to identify. Which choice best supports right? This is another difficult question, but this is another main idea. In order to know which information or which answer choice best supports the information in the following sentence, well, geez, we need to make sure that we know what's in the next sentence. We have to know the main idea. Now, another thing that I want you to recognize here, okay, and this is really important that I think everybody should take a note on. At this point, I'm realizing that passage number 1 is a difficult passage, and here's how I know that. And this will help you with your timing. Okay, generally speaking, on the SAT Writing and Language test, there are 30 grammar questions, 30 grammar, right? And there are 14. This is roughly, right? It varies a little bit, but you can write this down as a note. 14 main idea / organization questions. These include questions like, should the author add this, right? Should the author delete this? Those are all same questions. If you know this, it's in all likelihood you are going to be running behind time at this point. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you realize that? Because I have now seen 1, number 11, 2, number 9, 3, number 8, 4, number 7, and 5, number 3, 6, number 2. I have 6 of the 11 questions in the first paragraph. Remember, there are only 14 total. Okay, in this first paragraph, 6 out of the 11 questions fall under this category. That means 6 out of the 14 questions are going to be there. Now, if you know this test and you know the format, like I'm encouraging you to all know, you'll know this is from earlier, right? This is from when I took this test a couple weeks ago. But you'll know that if you look through the rest of this test, like the next passage only has 4, right, main idea. The next one after that, I think, has, let's see, through 2, 3, 4 main ideas. And the last passage has 1, nope, none there. 1, 2, 3, 4 main, no, 3 main ideas. So you go from 6, 4, 4, 3, which is 17 questions instead of 14. Like I said, it's not a perfect calculation with the 30, 14. It varies from one test to the next. But it's an easy one to remember. That's why I give that one to you guys. But this is without a doubt, passage number 1 is the one that has the most number of these main idea questions, and thus, it's going to take you longer to do that passage. Alexander, yeah, so it's a great question. So Alexander just said I do the grammar questions in the passage. That's a phenomenal question, and then go back to the organization questions. Honestly, I've done it both ways. I think that I don't think it matters. I really don't. I have done videos. I have done real-time videos doing it both ways, and I have not found a strategic advantage either way. Honestly, in that case, it's just whichever you prefer, and then when you prefer one, make sure that you practice it. Alexander, does that make sense? Again, I don't think it matters between those two. Sometimes people do like that. We've had students use the method where you just go through all the grammar questions first because you don't need any additional context, and then you come back and you almost treat the rest of the questions like reading, like the reading section questions. But it matters more than anything that you just practice it and you stick to that method, that you stick to that strategy, whichever one you. But I haven't noticed any big difference between the two. In any case, guys, again, as you go through this, you need to make sure, right? This is a word choice question for number 10. This is word choice, right? We got to know the difference between past and past. So this is word choice, right? And if we do know that, that's a very straightforward question. And then finally, this is a main idea question because it's asking about the full conclusion. So if we have 6 questions here and basically 3 to 4 questions on the remaining question, right, on the remaining test, we got to know that it's okay to run behind time. If you start to feel a little nervous, in fact, I may have done this on the first video. On the video where I took this when I saw it for the first time, I realized I didn't think about this, but it's a good note now that we're coming back around to the same test. If you watch the real-time video, which is in the playlist below, you'll see that I think I skipped number 11 because I got a little nervous that I was running too far behind time. If that's the case, then you make up time later in the test, and that's totally okay. Okay? Yeah, absolutely. You can absolutely do that. So Isaac, yeah, that's the question Alexander was doing. Yeah, so you can absolutely scan through the passage and do all the grammar questions first. Like I said, in fact, I think in this video, I actually filmed a SAT writing and language. This is the advantage, right? Typically, you get 35 minutes, guys. 35 minutes on this test. We did one where I finished this test in 20 minutes. Okay, in 20 minutes, and that is not a testament to me being smarter than you or you being smarter than me. It's a testament to how well you can memorize these rules. So benefits, right? I'm going to say benefits of learning all grammar rules. Okay, benefits of learning all grammar rules. If you focus on this, completing the writing language section. Okay, so if you guys see that video that I just posted in the chat, you'll know that you can complete this. If you memorize all your grammar rules, you can complete this very quickly. And that's actually the video, I think, to Alexander and Isaac's point. That was the video where I actually did all the grammar questions first, all the way through the test, and then I came back to the reading questions. So I did it in that strategy for that particular video, so you can absolutely try that, and you guys can see that in that video. I highly encourage you to do that. Yeah, so guys, for the question about is it okay if I concentrate on reading only the underlined sections, that is okay for the grammar sections only. But if you get to a question that deals with supports the information in the following sentence, right, or you get to a point where it's which choice best sets up for the next paragraph, for the grammar questions only, you really can be pretty focused on just that one sentence for the 25 to 30 grammar questions. But for the remaining questions, you got to be committed and know that you memorized your grammar rules so significantly, and I'll show you the math here in just a second, that if you can identify these and you memorize those grammar rules, then you're going to have plenty of time to come back to these other questions. Okay? Now let me give you another example of this. Okay? If you memorize all of your grammar rules, let's say that just for the purposes of the math and not having to make this too hard, generally speaking, for everybody out there, how long does it take for the 30 grammar questions? If you have all of the information down, like you know every rule there is to know that could cover this, how long does it take you to complete grammar questions on the SAT? These are the questions that don't have an actual question, right? It's like number 10. Okay? This is the time management right here, guys. This is the time management for this section of the test. If you have 30 grammar questions, relatively speaking, how long does it take you to answer those questions? Just in individual questions. So one grammar question on average takes you how long? Right? And again, it can be an estimate. One grammar question, relatively speaking, if you've memorized all of your rules, this should be universal because it's a rules-based question. And more importantly, it's not an understanding thing like math is. I know some students don't feel as comfortable with the math section. This is all grammar rules that deal directly with English language. So if you do decently well on the reading section, then this should be very, very straightforward. But does it make sense, guys, that one grammar question, let's say conservatively, probably takes us 20 seconds. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? That one grammar question takes us, let's even make it harder. Let's say 30 seconds. Okay, let's say it takes you 30 seconds per grammar question. Okay? Guys, if we do the math on that, right? If we do the math on 30 questions for 30 seconds, right? That takes us to 900 seconds or 15 minutes. We've already talked about how you have 35 minutes to do this, meaning that on the remaining 14 questions, right? 14 questions. If you have 15 minutes, you have 20 minutes then to answer those 14 questions. So that's the beauty of knocking out all of the grammar questions and making sure that you memorize everything there is to know, that you get to a point where you're finishing all of the grammar questions in 15 minutes. And that means that you have another 20 minutes to actually spend time and not be overwhelmed or feel exhausted or anxious or stressed about the timing for those questions that do really require you to go back and actually reread something and to think about it. Okay, that is so critical in your approach to this. And the best way to improve your grammar knowledge is to identify question types. Take an untimed SAT writing and language section, untimed, and cross-reference it with everything that I showed you on the Star U app. So if you notice that, hey, I don't know how to answer this question, well, go find it then, right, where you find, let's see, maybe it's a difficult question where you're using more confused words, right? That's typically a difficult thing, but you need to go through and you need to make sure that you can find these within the app. And you need to identify those grammar rules so that when you come to those questions, you know immediately what type of question that is. Right? We talked about question number 1 was a difficult question called concisions and redundancies. Well, if you memorize concision and redundancies within Star U and then you click the tap to start button, you get 4 practice questions that look very, very similar to the ones that you're going to see on the test. That's the best way to approach this section. And the beauty of this section, guys, is that every single one of you can do this. This section is 100% about hard work. It's not about understanding. It's about how much time am I going to spend to memorize these grammar rules so that just like we did today, I can identify each question type through a full passage. I can cross-reference it with Star U. If I notice I'm missing that question or I don't understand it, I can cross-reference that. And then I can come back and I can answer that correctly. And the same question types are going to show up on every single test going forward. That's why we have this much content. That's why we have our book. If any of you are interested in the full book and not using the app, but using the full book instead of using the app, all of our books and materials are also available on Amazon, and you can learn more about how we write these books. But all of our authors are current teachers. So, Star Tutors, perfect. Okay, so I encourage you guys to check that out. So yeah, guys, so it is the same for practice questions, but I mentioned this earlier. We actually have a special going on. I posted this in the live chat. If you're looking for more practice problems, right, more quizzes, for just for the next 3 days, you get the first month. It's $1.25 for the first month, and then it's $5 after that, where you just get more and more practice problems. So it's those same four the first time you go through it. But if you're interested and you sign up in the next 3 days, you can click Smart Bubble Sheet on the home screen and go through the process, Smart Bubble Sheet on the home screen. If you click yes, you can, and you use this promo code Thanksgiving, right? Then you can purchase that. It's not to say that you guys should do that. I'm not trying to get you guys to pay anything, but we do have 500 free practice problems, 500, and we have over 2,500 practice problems that then you can pay for. And again, it's $5 a month at most, but if you register for that within the next 3 days, it's $1.25. Okay, so it's the $1.25. Use promo code Thanksgiving if purchasing. All right, guys, so does that all make sense? Again, how to approach this? If you guys are interested in any of this, please make sure that you guys are continuing to do these practice tests. And again, the best thing you can do, okay, the best thing that you can do is to take this untimed. And don't forget that there's really 3 resources available to all of you, right? We have these videos. We have our videos that are speaking to specific question types, but then we have our real-time practice tests. So you can actually watch me go through these tests in real time, and it's the first time that I'm seeing it so that you can see that it's still stressful for me. I do this every day and have done this every day for the last 7, 8 years. It's still stressful for me. I get what you guys are going through. I think that's what makes these videos so different. If you haven't seen one of our real-time videos before, that's what makes these so different. Is that I get that there is stress, and how do we overcome that stress, and I try to talk through that. But then beyond that, you also have Star U, which allows you to practice these questions and read more about the actual content, and the combination of those 3 things, I think it makes the biggest difference in the world. And for those that have seen comments come through in the live streams or seen comments, there are a number, we've had thousands and thousands of students use this over the past 3 or 4 years, who have done exceptionally well on this test, including a number of perfect scores on both the SAT and the ACT exam. That has nothing to do with me being a better teacher or you being a better student. It has everything to do with work ethic, working hard, putting your head down and saying, I'm just going to do this. If it means that it's going to take me 6 months, I'm going to take that 6 months and I'm going to learn every single day just one concept. Okay, maybe I don't know how to do question number 8, right? Maybe I don't know how to do this question. Right? But I'm going to learn that over the next 6 months. I'm going to learn how to do that so that the next time I see a question very similarly, I'm not going to miss that question moving forward. All right, guys, does that all make sense in terms of the approach? I want to keep these videos to right around 30 minutes, so we'll stop there for today, but we're going to continue to do these videos all the way up until the December SAT exam. More than anything, I just wanted to show you all the importance of approaching each passage and taking an untimed writing and language section to best benefit you before you take. This is especially true for those that are struggling. Okay, this is especially true for those that are struggling with the writing and language section. You just can't feel like you're getting any better. You feel like you've hit a plateau. You're just kind of at the same level. Make sure that you try to take it untimed so you can try to identify your mistakes. Try to watch these real-time videos of me taking it. Okay, so that you can see somebody else doing it, so that you can take notes on your own without having to think about the test yourself. You're just identifying the best strategies. Hey Ram, I appreciate the concern there. I do want to keep these videos again to about 30 minutes rather. But if you learned a lot today, please give me a thumbs up, guys. I hope you all subscribe to the channel. That would be, again, the more students that we have viewing these videos, the better we can do. Okay. The more videos we can do, right, the better we can do in terms of the YouTube stuff. So please help us spread the word. Please help us subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Download Star U and continue to work on the writing and language section to identify each question type so that when it comes up on the next test, you know exactly what you need to do. Okay, again, that identification is going to be absolutely key every time you sit down to take the writing and language section, and this is the one that you can improve the most. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Look out for our next live stream. Subscribe, turn on all notifications so that you're notified the next time we are going to do a live stream or a lesson. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a great week, and we will see you guys for the next live stream. Continue to work hard. Continue to practice. You're doing great. Keep it up, guys.